You know, life has been very generous with me, and I've amassed a substantial fortune.
2 years ago, a billionaire family adopted me. That's how I got this life I couldn't even imagine having.
My dad is jealous of me because in just 4 months, I made as much money as he has in 10 years. And I'm making even more now.
Wow, those are some amazing stories that we have for you this week, but be sure to stick around until the end to see what happens in all of them. Money can bring out the best in people, but sometimes it can bring out the worst in them too. Our first story is about 15-year-old Ashton. He got really rich, but his parents got very jealous of him because of it.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashton. I'm 15 years old. I have some really serious issues with my parents. Can a father be jealous of his own son? My dad is jealous of me because in just 4 months, I made as much money as he has in 10 years. And I'm making even more now. And what about mother? Mine is jealous of me because even though she tried to stop me, I still managed to become rich. It all started when my math teacher made an announcement. Guys, I see you all gaming all the time. I think you've played enough. How about you build your own game that others can play? Starting next month, I'm going to teach a mobile game coding class at the Coding Club. Anyone who joins will have made a game by the end of the course. You're going to write code? Son, don't get me wrong, but coding is for smart people. Don't waste your time. Which made me really angry. Dad, what do you mean? I yelled at him, and my mom said, Ashton, don't you raise your voice. You think we have a money tree in the backyard? You can't expect us to waste money on ridiculous things like this. So she was with my dad on this. Arguing with them was useless. They had never taken me seriously. As usual, I was going to have to take care of this myself. One day in class, our math teacher said, guys, I have an idea which I think will motivate you. At the end of the course, we'll have a competition for the best game. All your classmates will vote for their favorite. The person whose game gets the most votes will get a prize. Our games were supposed to come out in the app stores the next day. That night, I couldn't fall asleep. I thought, I wish I'd never gotten involved in this. When I woke up, it was past 1 p.m. I had turned off my phone. When I turned it back on, texts started pouring in. I was flooded with messages and my friends were congratulating me. Girls loved my kawaii characters. The next day, my game had become one of the most downloaded apps. A week later, I logged into my App Store account and I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw how much money I'd made. If this kept up, I'd be very rich. And it did. My mom found out about it. They came to my room. What's up with all this money? Did you make money from this game? Why didn't you tell us about it? They asked. Yes, I made a lot of money and I'm still making a lot. I didn't tell you because I thought that since you weren't interested in my game, you wouldn't be interested in the money I made either.
Wow, Ashton managed to make all of that money against all the odds. He did an amazing job, but sadly, his parents were too jealous to be able to enjoy it with him. Ice Queen saw this too, and thought that his parents should be praising him and helping him through his struggles, not trying to stop him from doing something they didn't understand. Watch the full episode to see what Ashton did in the end, to deal with his parents, and to see what he did with all of his money. Next up we have Constance. She had a rough upbringing, but out of the blue got adopted by a family of billionaires. Wow, surely this meant her life would be incredible and trouble-free, right? But sadly, not even all the money in the world can solve some problems.
My dad left us when I was a baby. My mom didn't have a profession. She'd work any job she could get. When she got sick, she was unemployed for a long time. Because she couldn't take care of me, she left me at a group home when I was 9. The next year, my mom stopped visiting me. I got worried because that wasn't normal. I asked for help from the social workers at the home. I found out that my mom was hospitalized because her health was deteriorating. After a while, when I heard that she had died, I was devastated. One day, the director of the home called me. She said I fit this one family's criteria and she wanted to introduce me to them. Thankfully, our first meeting went great. They told me they really liked me, and they could definitely see me as a wonderful older sister for their son. There were 3 luxury cars waiting for us in front of the home. We got into the one in the front. The other 2 followed us. This was going to be my first plane ride. I'd seen the airport only in the movies. I told my new mom, "Are we going to buy a ticket for me from the airport?" And she smiled. "You don't need a ticket, honey," she said. I figured out what she meant by that when we arrived at the airport. My new family had their own private plane. This island in the middle of the ocean, of course, belonged to them. There was just this one house on the whole island. It was the biggest building I'd ever seen. I didn't even know they were called mansions. But I'd started living the life of a billionaire. This is where I met my brother Parker. He didn't seem like an 8-year-old at all. He was dressed exactly like an adult. I was going to be his sister from now on. I made a move to give him a hug. but Parker held himself back and offered his hand coldly. After this, the attorney gave me the documents one by one and told me what each one was about. This document is for the name change. We'll file a petition and your name will be changed to Jasmine. This document is an agreement about inheritance. In the future, you will be a part of the will, but your inheritance will be smaller compared to Parker's. It was nowhere near the life I dreamed of. Parker and my new dad were distant to me. My new mom would talk to me now and then, but it was more in the lines of, "How are things with Parker? What kind of things are you doing together?" Unfortunately, my replies were not the kinds of things she would want to hear. I wanted to be closer to my new brother, but it wasn't possible because Parker had built this really high wall between us.
Constance really did have a tough time. Or should I say, Jasmine. She just wants to be in a family that loves her and that she loves too. Lima agrees that money can't buy everything, and that the key to happiness is to be loving and caring to everyone you meet. Watch the full episode to see if love won in the end, and what became of Constance's billionaire lifestyle. Lastly, we have Boris. His grandfather was both very rich and very mean. He wasn't liked by very many people, but Boris loved him anyway. After his grandfather became very ill, Boris's cousins started to pretend to love their grandfather to get money from him. Let's see if it worked.
That's how he kept building his fortune year after year. He became one of the richest people in the country. He was also known for being a curmudgeon, to the point that people avoided making eye contact with him. I rarely saw him smile. He was a good man, but he had a bad temper. My dad has 2 siblings, both brothers. They each have 1 kid, and they're also boys. So my grandfather has 3 sons and 3 grandsons. He bought 4 houses right next to each other. He lived in one of them, and his kids lived in the others. We lived in the house closest to my grandparents. We always had breakfast together. We had a special connection. Unlike me, my cousins never went to visit them. Once, my older cousin Matt said, "I've never met anyone more obnoxious than Grandpa. If I see him on the street on my way home, I go through the backyard just to avoid him. They always give us the same gifts for our birthdays." That's how we know your sucking up to our grandfather isn't working. It used to bother me when they'd say stuff like that. But eventually, I realized they were just saying it because they were jealous of me. My grandfather was diagnosed with lung cancer. I was the first person he told this news. That surly old man we were used to was replaced with a nice old man who was afraid of dying. Matt, who used to avoid him, started visiting him several times a day. At first, I thought they changed their attitude because they were sad about him being sick. But soon, their true intentions became clear. They wanted to get a piece of their grandfather's fortune. Every time I went over there, Matt or Ben were there. One would leave, and the other would show up. I can't even tell you how fake they were. The next day, my cousins were already talking about money. I was right behind them at the funeral. They didn't notice that I was there. Matt said, "The lawyer just called my dad. He told the whole family to come to his office tomorrow. He's gonna read my grandfather's will." Ben giggled, saying, "Yes, we're gonna be rich tomorrow." I didn't want to go to the lawyer's office. I told this to my father that night. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Your grandfather instructed his lawyer to read his will in front of the whole family. I think he donated all of his money to charity. Your uncles also think so. So tomorrow we'll all be there, just as a formality." I agreed to go.
Well, Boris really did love his grandfather unconditionally. I can't say the same for his cousins. David agrees, and is saddened deeply that there are people like Matt and Ben in the world who just want money and don't even care about their own family. Be sure to watch the full episode to find out who the grandfather left all his money to, and the punishment Matt and Ben received for acting the way they did. You can watch all of our stories shown here today using the links in the description down below. Be sure to keep commenting on all our stories. We love reading them and hearing your opinions on the topics. And who knows, maybe you'll even be featured as one of our next comments in these videos. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to not miss out on our uploads. These are our stories. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time!